project is the architecture of a web application. Although it might sound a little boring, I'm explaining it to you. Hopefully you won't fall asleep. So web applications are a very diverse field. It often takes years to master a single part of it. And web applications have many multi-layers of architecture. Some examples of web applications are email accounts, online bank accounts, credit card processing, and Facebook. Alright, so this is basically how a web application works. First, we have a user. The user uses a web browser interface, such as Facebook, to connect to the server. Then the server uses databases, and then if a match is present in the database, there's a reply with data, and then the data goes back to the user. So this is all basically a circle of what happens. And I'm going to explain the steps in each one. Alright. So the user interface. The user inputs the interface and requests information from the data server. Basically, many programming languages can be used to build the user interfaces. One example is HTML. Maybe some of you know the new one, HTML5. And they can also be used PHP, ASP.NET, JSP, and other ones. It's actually very simple to code with. In the application server and the processing layer, there's typically a web application that processes the request. Some examples is the ISS, Microsoft, Apache Web Server, WebSphere, WebLogic, and etc. These are done by Java, C, C#, and other programming languages. Alright, so databases. Databases are basically collections of raw data. They are stored in tables, in TXT files, or CSV files. And databases contain columns and rows, and each column lists an attribute for each row. A computer program is needed to access the databases and retrieve the information, the data from them. And an example of the database making software is Microsoft Access. Alright, so here's a simple database example that I created. It's pretty much, it's all columns and rows, and then there's attributes for them. Alright, so user queries. So queries, as their name suggests, is a request for data by the user. Queries are referred as to questions for the database because the database receives a query and then replies data. There is a special method of a query that you can use in Access and other languages. Queries are usually structured in a SQL language, which is a programming language. And here's a query example. And it's all just, in Access you can just make a query. Then you select the fields that you want to include in the query and you're done. It's pretty easy. Alright, so the user interface that accepts the request and displays that. If there is a match in the user query with the databases, the software sends an output to the user. As previously mentioned, a SQL language is used to look up information in the database. Using Access, the data displays in rows and fields, as I showed you before. Alright, so after that, then you have to go to HTML basics, which is basically web pages. And after the database is made, a functioning query is made. Also, it is time to implement one into a web page. The first part is to design it. So I'm going to be teaching a little basic HTML. Hopefully, you might use it sometime. So HTML is a markup language that means it uses tags such as this start and then /end to make appropriate starts and endings of code. Coding HTML is much easier than you think. It's actually just using common tags such as head, title, table of line, and other stuff like that. Some HTML examples are here. This is what I actually coded by myself over here for my project. And then there's also more advanced HTML coding such as CSS, which is cascade style sheets. And it's another markup language that gives the web page color, and you can align the pictures and put other links. Here are some major color codes used in CSS. So you just basically throw this in anywhere at the bottom, and then the whole web page is going to be colored. You can specify if you want just a portion colored of it. All right, and here's a website from the HTML example that I showed you guys before that I made. And it's just basically a sample web page I made at Noris. I go to Manhattan Undersized High School. And then this table, it was very difficult to make, but it's not that hard, but it's pretty hard. All right, so for my future work, I'm going to be working on coding JavaScript to incorporate into the online databases, testing out the tables I created, completing a website from a static to a changing website. So basically a static website is one that doesn't change unless you change the source code, to a changing website which uses databases to change stuff like Facebook. And here are my references and my acknowledgements. I'd like to thank Dr. Sad, Harlem Children's Society staff, Dr. Emmanuel Coliri, my mentor, and you, the audience. Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh? Yeah.
How far are you to web designer?
What happened?
How far do you use the prompt for web design?
It's just coding HTML. There's no program to use. It's starting from basic.
Yeah, what do you use today?
You can use any text editor, such as Notepad or anything. Any other questions? Thank you.